A single domino falls and thousands follow. Now, if they're well aligned, your dominoes, they will follow the direction that you want. If they are not, however, they will start tilting out of place, bringing momentum to a halt. Now, as mesmerizing as domino art is, it reveals a deeper truth and something I want to talk about here, which is negative momentum and negative spirals. We all have had this feeling of starting strong and going at a great pace, but then feeling a shift, feeling a pull in the opposite direction. With January coming to a close, perhaps you've started to feel it as well. Whether with a big business shift, a new career path you're taking, or just overall a big decision that requires patience out of you, it's easy to start to feel this negative pull. I sure did feel it very recently, and I was able to overcome it, and I'm going to share how you can overcome it as well. But before that, you have to understand the trap of negative momentum. Something you have to know is that without the necessary conscious attention, the natural order of things is towards entropy. A car that doesn't move will rust out, a body that isn't exercised will decay, and a business that doesn't constantly iterate forward will soon stagnate. If we are not careful enough and attentive enough, the pull of this negative energy, negative momentum will take us toward the edge of a cliff and destroy us. If you let emotions take the wheel of your life, you will be heading toward destruction without even realizing it. When you'll become aware of this, it will be already too late. You'll be regretting the decisions you've already taken. Now, with that said, does it mean you shouldn't trust what you feel and trust your, these internal feelings and gut feelings, intuition? Not at all. However, it's very important to distinguish between intuition and temptation, because one of them will save you and will make everything in your life better, and the other one will quite literally destroy you. This one, very hard to listen to and follow. This one, unfortunately, quite easy. We'll look at the difference between these two forces, the trick temptation plays on us, and how to avoid it, and how to actually follow your intuition. Now, before we get to that and actually the details of the whole video, let me tell you about what happened with me and how I was able to overcome it. So recently we've launched our new solution for really entrepreneurs that want to make the most out of their time and focusing on exponential progress and not so much on linear progress where you're always working more to try to get a bit more results. We call it Escape Velocity, and the plan was very, very simple. We put the content, we'd message and interact with people, then go on a call and then see whoever is the right fit to work together. However, almost immediately I felt something wrong. Something wasn't quite right, and I knew I had to get to the bottom of this. So instead of just letting it continue and letting it go, I did something that we really ought to do much, much more often, which is instead of just doing the normal things, staying in my office and kind of going about it, I broke the momentum that was happening, the negative pull that I was feeling. And so I really went against the script. So what I did was I went to a different coffee shop that I never go to. I ordered a drink that I never ordered. I took my iPad to write that I really don't use anymore to do so. And I just started writing and brainstorming on what is actually feeling wrong here and why do I not feel like this is the right path anymore. What I realized that this would take us down a path of a lot of messaging, a lot of calls, a lot of this work that requires direct time that would start to take away. So the better we'd get at it, the more it would take away time from the really important work, the strategizing, the iterating, the figuring out more creative, better solutions, the work that would make our time more valuable. So in a lot of ways, the better we get at this process that we were thinking about, the worse our results would get. We were setting up the dominoes and they would start to build momentum, but it would be leading toward a wall. We were about to fall into the same trap I had before, where there was just more work, more stress, more spinning in place, and less exponential progress. But this time we caught the domino that was falling out of place. And this, my friend, is how you can as well. Now, if you want to stop this negative momentum and of course build positive momentum, the first step that you have to do, and it always starts here, is just listen to your gut. That voice, that little feeling, that whisper inside of you that you've been delaying on, that you've been kind of pushing aside, the first thing you have to do is listen to it. Now you can use the method I was saying, that's what I suggest, where you really kind of break the script, where you really go against the current momentum to a different coffee shop, order a different drink, and really do something out of the ordinary. But above all, what you have to do is stop the momentum that's currently taking place. Now there's this great quote by an author I've been reading about more recently. Let me read it to you. The quote goes, If you ever find yourself in a situation that you know will unfold according to a set script, do something surprising. It does not matter what you do as long as it's something that does not fit with the standard script. This will stop the pendulum's swing. Now, not to get too much into these terms because you'd have to read the book, Reality Trend Surfing. However, above all, you have to stop really this negative pull, this negative spiral by doing something out of the ordinary. For example, in my case, I would always brainstorm and write in the office, but I noticed that's where the negative momentum was happening. So if I stay there and I just did everything, or I just did the same things I did every day, I would just start going down the momentum that was in place. For you, if you noticed, whether that's in your office, in your room, in your living room, whatever, most of the times, wherever you work and where most of your time is spent, get away from there. Go somewhere else, listen to it, because it's really going to allow you to really disconnect a bit more of your ego and of all the noise in your mind from what actually is truth, and above all, what your gut feeling, what your intuition is telling you. Now, by doing so, essentially what you're doing is you're seeing the dominoes fall and you'll be holding the last one. Not allowing the current momentum to continue, but instead to shift it where you want to go. Because if not, and you know this feeling, even how Morpheus said in the Matrix, it's almost like you have a splinter in your mind. And until you get it out, and first of all, you have to understand what it is, and then getting it out, you're always going to be restless. You're always going to be feeling like something's not right, and overall, it's not going to be good. Now, when you do remove it, and we'll get to how you do that in a second, but when you do remove it, the external results will not change right away. And this you have to understand. You know, if I plant the seed of a good future today, I still have to water it, and I still have to wait for it to grow. However, and that is key as well, internally, things will feel much better right away. It will be like a weight is lifted off your shoulders, because not after all, but after so long, you finally listened. You finally addressed the core problem, the root issue that was taking place, and now you're free. Now you don't have to fight against it anymore. Now you don't have to pretend things are fine anymore. You actually dealt with it. And it's very interesting as well, because the more you do this, and the more you listen to what your intuition is saying, and on the other side as well, the more you improve your intuition by reading books and learning from different people, getting more knowledge, applying all of these things, the more you'll be getting closer to the Kaizen concept. Essentially, it's a Japanese concept for small progress every day. How you've likely seen it is really the 1% improvements every day. And if you don't know, you would think, okay, if I improve 1% every day, I will be 365% better at the end of a year. However, because it compounds and you're always increasing on not what you began, but on where you are, it would be 3,778% better, if I'm not mistaken. So almost 38 times as better. And before anyone goes and comments, oh, but that's unrealistic, I can just keep lifting 1% more, of course. However, what you have to realize is that you can make an attempt at that. And perhaps it won't be 38 times better. Perhaps it'll be 10 times better, 5 times better, even 2 times as better than where you are today would be an absolutely insane growth compared to what's the norm. Because what's the norm is motivated, you start consistent, without any structure, without any goal, without anything. You do it for a little bit, something goes wrong or you lose a bit of motivation, which then makes you lose a bit of consistency, which then makes you drop it altogether. And then you wait a little bit until you feel bad again, and then you repeat the cycle. And as I see it, really anything is better than that, but saying I'll be 2 times, 5 times, 10 times as better is absolutely crazy dramatic results compared to what is the norm. And surprisingly enough, this is common for pretty much everyone. If you're a beginner in whatever you are, or more advanced people as well, we all have our baseline. Some people are higher in that baseline because they have more talent or they just adopted a better structure in the beginning. But most people at some point cannot really apply the changes they want. And this goes for everyone, beginner, intermediate, advanced, in whatever realm you're thinking. It's, for example, the entrepreneur that found some success but now can keep scaling because they're too attached to their current methods. Or it's the executive that has a good life on paper and has a good car and a good house and all these things, but is constantly overwhelmed and cannot enjoy any of the money that he's making because he can't stick with the new process. Or it can even be the athlete that is stagnated at a certain point because he just can't stay consistent with the training to go to the next level. This is common pretty much among every type of people, with every type of skills, in every type of level to these things. And the reason why this happens, it's not because, for you in this case, not because you're broken or less skilled or because something is wrong with you. It's because of how you're perceiving change and really how you're perceiving results and progress. Because this is a great example by James Clear, the ice cube example. So if you were to imagine, let's say in this table, imagine this is an ice cube. If I put it here, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, and I would say to you, okay, your goal is to make this ice cube melt. And you know that the room, I'm going to use Celsius degrees because I'm from Europe, but if in Fahrenheit, I believe it starts to melt at 33 Fahrenheit, I believe, but let's use Celsius. So it starts to melt above 0 degrees. Let's imagine this room is at -6 Celsius degrees. And I told you, okay, go ahead, try to melt it. And so perhaps you'd light a fire. Perhaps you would install an AC to make it more warmer. You do all these things, put effort, money, energy into. And what would happen is, let's say if it starts at -6, it would start to increase temperature. -5, -4, -3, -2, -1. And you know, or at least perhaps you wouldn't know, but people know that after 0, it would start to melt and melt faster and faster the more you would keep that progress. However, it would be very easy on this ascent from -6 to 0 to look at the ice cube and say, it's still frozen. My effort is doing nothing. It's still frozen. I'm just wasting my time. It would be the equivalent of this very old image I'm going to put here, and the meme that I prefer here. It's been around forever, but that's really the visual representation of it. You were so close, and a lot of times we're so close to starting to see the results, but then we stop because we're looking at the wrong things. We're looking at just the physical reality of what's happening and not the invisible momentum and invisible progress that's building up, because it is building up. Now, the good thing in real life, opposed to how these domino structures are set up, is that each domino falls as it is placed, meaning you can correct directions at any point, at any point, at any moment, if you just choose to stop, look at things and shift your wheel where you want to go. And the way I do this is what I call mind unraveling, as if you have this wool, I'm forgetting the word, this wool thing with all the strings that a lot of times if you just leave it around or move it around, you can start getting more knots and getting tighter and just making it harder to unravel. A lot of times your mind is the same. These intuitions we have are the same. The more you delay on them and the more you just push it aside, the worse it gets. So what you're going to do here, like we talked about, and this I preface with this because for me it's really important. Go somewhere you don't usually go. I like a coffee shop. I like somewhere that you go that you can afford to not be distracted, not take your phone, not take your computer, things like this. Go there, take a notebook to write, a computer if need be, one you usually don't go to, order a drink you don't usually order, and really shift yourself from the usual momentum, what you usually know, how you usually think. And then what you're gonna write, I always like to start more freeform, just really writing about what I think is wrong. Listen to that voice. You know the one I'm talking about, that, excuse me for the watch here, that says you that things are wrong, that is kind of putting some discomfort within you. Listen to that. And I know it's not easy because a lot of times it feels like you're arguing with someone that you disagree with, where they're talking, but you're just waiting to talk back. I know it's difficult, but I really, really urge you to listen. Listen, assuming you are not right and they are right. Because what you'll find is that this voice, this intuition, your subconscious, is pretty much always right compared to your ego and the things that you just want in the moment. First step is that freeform, listen to it. Then what I like to do, and you can do this in whatever sequence you prefer, I'll start how I usually do, is then I take that and I look at the general direction of things I'm doing. My business, maybe my fitness, the things I'm doing, and seeing, are these things aligned with what I've just uncovered now and the direction I should be going towards? If they're not, I identify them and say, okay, these are not really well, because they should be pointing in that direction. That's the sort of the first step to it. More vague, more broad, but you get the kind of general context of it. And then I move to the more specifics. The more specific things. So then within all of that, I look, okay, what are the main habits I'm doing every day? The writing, the content creation, the videos like this, things like that. And I analyze, are they pointing me in the right direction? If not, how can I make them point in the right direction? And if they are pointing in the right direction, am I being as consistent as I should? If not, why and how can I fix it? And am I executing as well as I should? And if not, why and how can I fix it? I always prefer to start with consistency first, because if you focus too much on the perfection, execution side of things, you're really going to hone in too much on that. And then you're going to end up like the guy that goes to the gym once a month, does a perfect workout perhaps, but is never consistent enough to see the proper results. Consistency first, execution second. Then you implement all the things that you have to implement and you keep going in that direction. And then you repeat. A lot of these things are going to just be repetition. Then you keep doing that. Then perhaps you implement something new, something wrong. You feel something wrong inside. You analyze again. You see where you should go, where you're not go. All of these things. Correct it. Same process. Keep moving. Obviously, there are many more details to master about the discipline, the focus, the direction, all these things. But for now, this will serve you. With that said, as well, good to remember is that this really is a dance between the macro side of things and the micro side of things, between the next brush stroke and the overall painting it's leading towards. As the wise Takehiko Inoue said, preoccupied with a single leaf, you won't see the tree. Preoccupied with a single tree, you'll miss the entire forest. Thank you for watching.